So it's now 1:20. So I'm going to start as pledged. So welcome to the presentation about Crisis Navigator. I am Patrick Olszewski. I'm the Managing Director of Outrageous Impact. Outrageous Impact does qualitative research for digital and creative agencies, as well as for organizations working to positively change the world. And normally we go all over the world to do sort of in-depth, on-the-ground research for businesses, charities, political pressure groups that takes, sometimes 3, 4, 5 months and is extremely involved. And yet now we find ourselves in a situation where the need to understand people has never been more acute, and also the need to be sure-footed through times of crisis as well. And that's why we've decided to launch our first ever direct to organization and direct to consumer sort of product, which is called Crisis Navigator. And the idea is to basically get you ready for whatever comes next. So firstly, I wonder if you could just put in the chat, and Taylor, this is really directed to you because you are my audience of one, and as I said, there is a special reward for you at the end. But just thinking about perhaps you and the organization that you're part of, or the organizations that you know, how ready do you feel to be on the right track, both for this crisis and whatever comes next? If you were able to put a quick message in the thing, I won't embarrass you by saying which organization you're from, so it should be pretty sort of anonymous, but just be great to get a sense from you. Let's just see. How ready do you feel with this crisis and the next? I'll give you 15 seconds more. Semi-ready. So I feel semi-ready, more ready as the days go by. Fantastic. Taylor, you are my absolute hero. Thank you so much. So what about this question? How confident are you that you know what your people want and need? Again, love to hear your thoughts on this. Okay, not very confident. Okay, fine. I suspect that your answers are pretty emblematic of a lot of people. I've been doing interviews with charity leaders, with agency heads, with marketing directors, and those sorts of themes are coming up again and again and again. So over the last 20 years, and I'm starting to think that this is basically all to do with me, I have basically been responding to crises including fires, an armed siege, a global pandemic, mass migration covering movement over several continents, cover-ups, research in refugee camps, hospitals, research in trailer parks, millionaires' mansions, research in parliament. And my work has directly raised money. It's created change. And yeah, I've also done the occasional bit of road blocking to raise awareness of the climate emergency. And one of the things that has really struck me is the need for us all, as we're going through these times of global pandemic, to always be helping. It's in fact a phrase that came up from an American researcher called Priscilla McKenney, who I hugely rate. And I think it's just a great mantra for these sorts of times. But when we're thinking about how to always be helping, how do we actually know what to do? I think essentially what we're talking about now is about training people, and Crisis Navigator is about training people to thrive in uncertainty. So what we want to do is we want to give you the right mindset. We want to give you good crisis handling principles, not the really detailed stuff, but enough stuff to help your organization and you make smart moves, both in terms of your own career, both in terms of your team performance, and then your organization's performance and the wider sector in which you're working in. Some of the things that you'll learn within this is around social media listening, will be around doing really top quality, world-class interview skills. I'll also be sharing, and my team will be sharing, the pitfalls to avoid as well. And God knows I have made some mistakes, so you will be able to learn from the mistakes I've made when you're thinking about your own crisis response, and hopefully not make them. So yeah, hopefully really, really positive. And the sort of final thing that Crisis Navigator, is doing, which I think is a bit unusual, is basically offering you a peer network of other people in other organizations. So they might be both commercial, charity, public sector on the course. You'll all be in a WhatsApp group, and that will be moderated to allow you to ask questions, to have support, and to actually make a really good connection with others. So as you're going through, you've got that chance to just learn yourself, learn through engaging with Outrageous Impact and the content we put up, learn through WhatsApp and posing questions to us and to your peers. And we know that this is just a really, really strong way of actually learning, as it were. So what in detail are you going to learn? And we're coming into the sort of final bit of the presentation now. So I told you it would be short. I promised you it'd be short. Trying to sort of live up to that. We'll be finished by 25-2. So in week 1, we are going to basically compress 20 years experience of being in the wrong place at the right time, as I like to describe my crisis experience, and teach you the key principles that you can apply to essentially support the people that you exist to serve, to delight your customers, and frankly, to actually look like a bit of a hero. Now, I know that that sounds a weird thing to say, but actually there are so many examples in crisis management where people actually end up looking really, really bad because they don't understand these basic principles. So we are going to teach you and give you some exercises to use to actually explore those key principles, so you can be quite sure-footed as you're going through this, and also be able to act as a really good sounding board if you're part of a crisis response team to other colleagues, senior colleagues, or also colleagues at your peer level, as it were. So the second part is we're going to teach you how to run really powerful user interviews. And this is a skill I think, is absolutely invaluable. If you've got any questions, by the way, as I'm going through, please put them in the chat and I'll aim to answer them in the final few minutes. So the skill of interviews and user interviews is really, really powerful, as I just said. It's very easy to be distracted by what people say rather than actually by their behavior, what researchers call the say-do gap. So we are going to show you how to discern that gap between what people say and do. We're going to show you the tech to use to run remote research. We're going to talk a little bit about ethics. We're going to make sure that basically you can run interviews that you can then rely on to help guide your strategy, allied with those really firm crisis handling points learnt in lesson 1. So then in week 3, we're going to be showing you how to use social media as a bit of a sort of rapid sort of check on what's going on out in the wider context, what other key stakeholders are saying, what your key customers are saying, and looking at how you can decode trends, how you can anticipate crises, how you can delight your fans and customers, and also how you can understand the wider sort of questions around tone and sort of appropriate communication, because you only have to look at hashtags like doing it right to see the sort of consumer backlash that there actually has been for organizations that perhaps have got their tone or their sort of communications wrong. And we believe that a lot of the reasons why they get those communications wrong is because they haven't run really clear user interviews and because they have not applied the correct crisis handling principles. So just trying to build a step-by-step, really clear, process, repeatable process. If you can hear me, could you just drop me a quick line again in the chat, just so I make sure I'm not broadcasting to myself? Would hugely appreciate it. I'm so grateful. The special reward is nearly coming at the end of this presentation. Yes, can still see and hear. All good. Hello as well, Dominica. Thank you very, very much. So who are we? So Outrageous Impact is basically, hello, Dominica, lovely to see you, is a network of experienced researchers. And unlike a lot of researchers, it's not essential that every member of the research team has a Polish surname, although most of us do, although it does help to work at Outrageous Impact. We are basically coming from a huge range of different disciplines. And one of the sort of key insights that we had is often when organizations try and buy research, it's often the senior people that sell the work, but then the junior people who do the work. And instead, what we've done is we've built a distributed network of people, often who are working in home offices, who are working in sheds. This was sort of prefiguring the pandemic itself, and who, through not having fancy offices, not having expensive coffee machines, we're actually able to just put really senior, really experienced researchers onto your project, and in this case, onto a training project. So I will be talking about research and crises. We'll have Dominica talking about some of the sort of cultural research and sort of narrative strategy, as it's called out there. So how does one not just research with people, but actually understand the context we're working in? So, for example, how have notions of health changed, for example? Or how do people feel about hospital now? So if you're working for a health charity, that might be very, very important. Or if you're working in the international aid sector, for example, how would a sort of protectionist national state first approach then impact onto your ability to raise money to then send overseas? So what we're trying to do is to give you a broad spectrum, and then Helen, who is a social media expert and who works with a range of purpose-led businesses, doing absolutely great guns, helping them raise huge amounts of money and really sort of giving you a clear sense of that social listening bit. So this will be the people who will be leading the sessions. Coming into the final few slides now. So Crisis Navigator, in summary, is a 4-week online course. It's £297. The course is actually led over Zoom and WhatsApp by us. We're extremely friendly. We've made loads of mistakes as well, particularly me. I would not sort of be impolite and say that about my colleagues in the network. They are absolutely awesome. So all mistakes are mine, but I will be prepared to share all the mistakes. We'll be there on WhatsApp to help you with those questions as we go. And really our aim, in summary, and do feel free to post any questions because we're coming to the final 2 minutes. So if there's anything you'd like to know, now is your moment, or any observations on what you think about this, is that if we can give you the research skills, which is both interviews and social listening skills to allow you to handle crises really, really well. And then we give you that sort of crisis principles on top of that. We can get you more ready. And for us, more ready means more ready in your ability as an organization, more ready in your ability to work as part of a crisis team, more ready to set the future direction of your organization, more ready to make the next move in your career. So research plus crisis handling is all about getting you ready, and what you will be learning will be super, super practical. So if you're interested, and I promised Taylor a special offer because she has been an absolute hero here. Taylor, thank you so, so much. Love to just hear a final thought from you and from Dominica. If you want, just in the chat, there's a £30 discount if booked by the 29th of May. So that's a week from now. You can book in at outrageousimpact.co.uk/Crisis Navigator. And there is also a book a 30-minute call button up on that URL as well. So if you're interested, do get involved.